Welcome, welcome, rockers and music lovers. This episode, we're going to take a deep dive into the 5 things that I wish I knew when I first started playing guitar. Number 1, use anchor notes or lead fingers when there are no anchor notes. Now, what is an anchor note? An anchor note is, let's say I'm going from G to D. What happens is most beginners, when they're strumming their one chord and then they change to the second chord, they tend to take their hands off the fretboard completely and then begin rebuilding the next chord. When in reality, the path of least resistance would be to, first of all, imagine the next chord in your mind and look at the chord that you're on right now and ask yourself, are there any common notes in there? So I look here and I see that when I go to D, the common note is the D on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. So I'm playing G, and then I do not take my hand off the fretboard. I simply keep my ring finger where it is, and then that acts as an anchor for me to place the other fingers into the D. And this works also when you're going to a chord that has no common tones. Now what you would use here would be a lead finger. So instead of, if I wanted to do G to D, I use my anchor finger, the ring finger. I do not take my hand off the fretboard, stay close in contact. Now if I was going to go to a C chord after this, instead of resetting the whole process and coming back, what I would do is I would look at my fingers on the fretboard and ask myself, which one's the closest to its next destination? And that would be from the D here, my index finger is very close, so I would push that to its final destination and then use the rest of the fingers in order. I tend to believe that having one finger in place and then building in order, just repeat. It's better to have a mediocre system than no system at all. So if we're just flying blind, resetting every single one, and we have no methodology for building chords, it's going to take us longer to learn. So anchor notes, common notes between the next 2 chords, or if there are no common notes, what is the most direct route to the next position? And this works for any chord. So if you're in E minor and then your next chord is an A, instead of doing what I just did and removing my hand completely from the fretboard, you would just look at what is the path of least resistance. Well, keep these 2 fingers together and just move them down 1 string like that, and then place your 3rd finger and you have a perfect A chord. So I hope that helps. Remember, keep your hands in contact with the fretboard whenever possible and have a methodology, an order in which the fingers assemble themselves into the next chord, and that would help a lot. Number 2, it's something that we don't really think about when we're first starting, and that's how hard do you press on the notes? Well, most beginners would tend to grip as hard as you can because you're not used to producing a sound on a guitar, so your fingers might not be in exactly the right position or the right place, and we would tend to press really hard thinking that the harder we press, the more sure the note will be. Well, it's not true. Say you start on an acoustic guitar. Acoustic guitars tend to have low frets, low profiles. The frets are not that tall, so it's not such a big deal on an acoustic guitar. But when you change to an electric guitar, they tend to have, especially these days, medium jumbo frets, higher frets, and you tend to play electric guitar with lighter gauge strings. So if you press too hard, you will also push your notes out of tune because you're going to be bending the note, you'll be stretching the note. And you're also going to wear out your frets a lot faster. You can see people that grip really hard, they have like big grooves in the frets here, and you're going to wear out your frets a lot faster, and your hands are going to get sore. You'll wear out your fingers a lot faster. So don't press any harder than you have to. And how do you know how hard you have to press? Well, let's go back to our trusty G chord, and let's just say I'm touching the string with almost 0 pressure. Now, all I do is keep pressing until I get a clean note, and I don't need to press any harder than that. And I can tell you right now that I'm pressing with probably about 40% less pressure than I was when I first grabbed this G chord. I personally have had a problem with playing too hard over years. I used to break strings. I used to use big, thick, 2mm thick picks, heavy strings, high frets, and I would wear out my frets all the time. I would break strings all the time because I was playing so hard. But the reality is when you want to get up to any speed when you're playing lead guitar, a lighter touch will allow you more mobility, agility, and speed. So don't press any harder than you have to for the sake of your fingers, your frets, and your strings, and your tone and your intonation. Number 3, I would like to have put this at number 1 because I think it is absolutely critical, but that is a point of contention with some people. I think that one of the most important things that you can do in order to communicate your ideas clearly with other musicians, and also to know where you are and to give you a basis for any kind of future theory that you want to learn the notes on the fretboard. It is not that difficult to do. There's one way to remember and never mess up your notes, is that remember that E and F are a semitone apart. There's no such thing as E sharp unless it's in a very strange key. That's a more advanced theory, but let's just say that in the normal world, E and F are one semitone apart, B and C are one semitone apart. So there's no B sharp, there's no C flat, and no F flat. And you need to know the names of the strings. This is E, A, D, G, B, and E. If we remember that between E and F, there's only a semitone. So if we go from E and we go the first fret, which is a semitone higher, well, that will be F. A semitone higher than F is F sharp, and then G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then we have C, and then we have C sharp, D, D sharp, and then we're back to E, our octave. So that's all of the notes on the top string, on the 6th string. Now do the same thing on, at least at the beginning, the very first 2 strings. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Why do we do this, especially on these 2 strings? Well, eventually, in the not too distant future, after you're starting, you are going to get into bar chords. Bar chords are what? Bar chords are like open chords like E that we move up and down the neck, and we kind of replace the nut right here with our index finger. So we move this around. This is your basic power chords. Also your major chords, your minor chords, all on the top string. And this note, whatever this note on the top string is the name of the chord. So this is a G minor. This is a C, that's a C minor. This is a D, E, F. Why? Because I know the names of the notes on these strings. So it's going to be so much easier when you start using the E-shaped bar chord and the A-shape bar chord, which is how do we know what these chords are? We know what the tonic is, and we know what the name of the note is, and it will pay dividends in the long run. It will help you to remember the chords better, remember sequences of chords better, because visualizing them on the neck might not be as easy as remembering the order in your head, because we're raised with the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's the whole musical language there with sharps and flats thrown in. So learn the notes on the guitar. There's a really funny story of Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. Joe Satriani coached Steve Vai in the beginning of his playing career, and the first lesson that Steve had, and Steve Vai, we all know, is an incredible virtuoso. So is Joe Satriani. And Steve went to his first lesson with Joe, and Joe said, the first thing I want you to do is learn all of the notes on the fretboard. So Steve went home and came back the next week, and Joe asked him, there's a video out there that proves these two guys are talking together about it, and Joe says to Steve, well, play me an F sharp on the B string, and he couldn't do it, and Joe sent him home and said, come back when you know the notes on your guitar. He considered that the most important thing, is that you know the names of the notes on the fretboard, and it will help you when you start to, don't change the channel just because I'm saying theory, but when you start to learn theory, it will help you. It's the basis, it's the alphabet of the language. Know the names of the notes on the guitar. Now, number 4, what I wished I learned earlier was, we all will learn, hopefully we will learn, our major scale. That's in C. Now, there is an order in which the chords of the C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, there's an order in which these chords happen, and I wish I would have learned this, because it is the same system for every single major key. And you get a 2-for-1, because when you know the chords in the major scale, you also know the chords in its relative minor, which is the minor chord that occurs 3 semitones below the tonic. So in C, A minor. So you're here, 1, 2, 3 down, you have A minor. In G, it would be E minor. I have a video on diatonic chords and major scales that you can click on. I also have another one on the circle of fifths, which will go more into the relative majors and minors. But suffice it to say that learning to harmonize the major scale in triads is probably one of the most important things you can learn to do, because you get a 2-for-1 with the major and the minor. It's relative major, relative minor. And not only that, every major scale is built with exactly the same structure. It's only the note names that change, but the major, minor, minor sequence is always the same. So in C, you would have C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and then back to C. And it works in all keys the same way. I wish I knew that earlier. And number 5, here is something that I really, really wish that I would have started earlier in my career. It's something that I do regularly now, even to this day, because it creates a good mind-body connection with your instrument, and that is to play simple melodies, to play melodies on your guitar. We tend to learn at the beginning of our learning process, we learn chords, open chords, cowboy chords, and then maybe we will graduate to bar chords, and the neck will open up a little bit, and then we'll learn boxes for all of our scales and whatnot. But what we don't develop as guitar players until later on usually is our ear. And one way to develop our ear, if you don't have a personal instructor who is teaching you ear training per se, one way is to play melodies that you know well on the guitar, because if you don't play them right, you'll know, your ear will know that something's wrong. And by picking out the melodies, even if you have to do, you're plucking different notes until you find the right one, well, you'll know when it's right. And this will help to make a stronger connection between what your mind hears and what your hands play. So take something super simple that we all really know well, like see, I don't play Happy Birthday on its own, but I knew as soon as I hit that E, I knew that it was wrong, and my ear corrected it to bring it up to the right note. See, we're learning intervals. That's a major second. That's a fourth. That's a semitone. That's an octave. That's a major third. Major third. Any song that you can imagine in your head, like but you get it. We know Smells Like Teen Spirit really well. It seems like a simple melody, but it will challenge your ear to hit the right intervals. So number 5, play simple melodies on your guitar. It will help you in your lead playing. It will also help to develop your melodic sense on your instrument. So there you have it, folks. Here are 5 of the most important things that I wish I had started doing when I first started playing guitar. I think that that would have helped me progress a lot quicker. So I'm hoping that this will help you if you're a beginner or an intermediate, or even if you're an advanced player. It's always a privilege and an honor to share this information with you. My name is Dwayne Dixon, aka Double D. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Double D's Rock School. Take care, folks.